Today on Your Loose Women Live, it's Ruth Langsford, Linda Robson, Coleen Nolan, and Janet Street Porter.
Thank you very much. What a lovely welcome. Hello and welcome to you at home as your first Loose Women of the Week. It's lovely to have your company. So coming up today, we're discussing that Partygate video and asking, does the footage make you angry, or do we need to finally just put lockdown behind us? Also, after footballer Peter Crouch has been opening up about his experiences of bullying in childhood, we're revealing the moments that have always stayed with us and asking, can you ever get over a cruel comment from your childhood? And fresh from celebrating Father's Day with his 4-year-old son, Sid, MasterChef's Greg Wallace is our guest today. He'll be talking all things family, food and fitness. So I was going to say let's start with Father's Day. Let's start with your trousers, because you've done nothing but moan since we got in there today.
You know that thing in hot weather where you leave home, you look all smooth, and then you sit down for 2 minutes, and then you've got all these creases radiating out. What do you do about them? So I'm
stroking it like
I'm
that.
hoping they fall out. Yesterday, I read in some trendy fashion magazine, oh, well, if you're wearing linen and it creases, you just whip your trousers off and put them in a washing machine, in a tumble dryer with an ice cube. Like, I'm in the middle of shopping, I'm going to find a tumble dryer and take the
just said
That
it
is a
works.
good tip. It's a really good tip, because I don't do any ironing. So what I do is when I wash my clothes, and then when they're dry, they're creased or whatever, I'll put them in the washing machine, in the dryer, and I'll put a damp cloth in with them, and it takes all the creases out. You can do it in men's suits and everything, honestly.
I have been
really good tip.
I have been known to iron my own crotch at times, but...
Not off when the trousers are off, and not when they're on you, hopefully.
Yeah, well,
don't try
you
this at
hold
home,
it
kids.
near, kind of. Lucky don't burn some iron.
Steam
Steam
iron.
on the body.
Steaming it. Anyway, I digress. What we were going to talk about was Father's Day. Lots of celebrations, of course, yesterday for all the dads out there. But it will have been a bittersweet day for lots of people, including us, actually. For those who've lost their dads, or perhaps you had a difficult relationship, you're estranged. You know, it's always a poignant day. Did it make you think about your dad? How do you feel about it generally?
It's really weird for me, because obviously, I always think about my dad, and it's hard for me really to celebrate Father's Day in one way, because I feel guilty when I don't celebrate it, and I feel guilty if I do, because obviously things happen with my sister. You know, for her, he was abusive and stuff. But I never experienced that side of him or saw that side of him. So I have a lot of nice memories. She has a lot of bad ones. So it's hard for me to post anything.
So do you feel disloyal
I don't
to your sister?
I feel disloyal to her.
Yeah.
But then there's an element where I go, now I feel a bit disloyal to him. So I just kind of go, oh, it's Father's Day, and I think about him, and that's that. But I don't tend to put anything on social media or anything, because it can be, you know...
I have that, you know, I love seeing everybody celebrating their dads. It really warms my heart, you know. I look at all the comments and the pictures, and I'm thinking, oh, that's lovely. And then it makes me a bit sad. So I always post a picture of my dad and say, you know, I miss him, and to everyone who's missing their dads. Because all these celebrations, Janet, somebody, you know, everyone's like, yay, but for lots of people, it's very difficult.
Well, it's weird for me, because... I'm older than the rest of you, and I didn't grow up with Father's Day. So regardless of what I think about my dad, and I certainly had quite a complicated relationship with him, being born in 1946 and being a child through the 50s and then a teenager at the end of 50s, early 60s, we didn't have Father's Day. And in fact, I got someone to look it up for me, and Father's Day only really started in this country in 1972. So... part of me also thinks we've got Mother's Day, we've got Father's Day, have we got, you know, ingrown toenail day, and what else are we going to celebrate? Because it is a hugely... It's so commercial, and it puts pressure on people at these times when they haven't got a lot of money. They've got to spend money on cards, flowers, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they've got to feel they've got to give meals and have people round when they can't afford it. And I would say, if you want to celebrate your dad, your mum or whatever, just give him a hug or do something free, because that's got to be better.
I mean, there are lots of things you can do. It doesn't always have to cost money, Linda. Is it important to mark the occasion?
Yeah, I think it is. But yesterday for breakfast, I went out with my two sisters and we had a good dad. He was a really good dad, but he wasn't a very good husband because he cheated on my mum all the way through. But I think of all the people that have lost their dads. I lost my dad and he was 57 from lung cancer. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, he's old, isn't he? Because I was probably in my 30s then. Then you get to 57 and you think, actually, he was really young, wasn't he? But he started smoking when he was probably about 10. And then I think about Lauren, who lost her dad, like, during COVID and that, so it's a hard time for those people and that. But I've got mostly happy memories of my dad. And then to celebrate, I went and saw Mrs Doubtfire, and it was brilliant.
Oh, was it good?
So, yeah, it was a little treat for me on Father's Day.
And what about at home, like with the kids, you know, when it's Mother's Day and things, do you need that celebration? Like Janet's saying, you know,
really.
just tell your
I love
your parents you love
get nice cards from the grandchildren and the kids and lovely flowers. I do love flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I love
it's
the
really
way
nice.
my kids, you know, I always say, have you bought, you know, Father's Day cards or... I mean, nowadays people don't even buy the cards, they just put a message on social media or whatever. But I think there's a lot of pressure when it comes to that as well, that if you don't, people are judging you as well. But yeah, I think, especially when they were younger and even now on Mother's Day, I mean, I do sometimes think they feel a massive pressure for it because Mother's Day is so close to my birthday, and then they're like, this is taking the you get them. So I always say, oh, do you know what? It doesn't matter. You know, just
Can we
a
have a
handwritten
Janet
card.
Day? Sorry.
Every day a Janet Day,
Every day is a Janet Day on Loose Women.
No need to send flowers.
OK, what about this? This is making headlines today. Lots of you will have seen what's being dubbed the latest Partygate video. Conservative officials there at an event. This is organised by Sean Bailey's London mayoral campaign team. That was on the 14th of December 2020. So let me just remind you, that was while the rest of the country was in a tier-based lockdown, and it was just days before the then Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, announced those in Tier 4 could not travel or meet up with anyone at Christmas. Do you remember that? So, yeah, really, really difficult time. So a lot of very angry people about Janet. I mean, we'd seen a photograph of this party before. There was quite a lot of anger just by the photograph. Yeah. Now there's footage. Dancing, drinking. They're even heard to say, oh, you filming this, don't post it anywhere because we're bending the rules.
It's breathtakingly arrogant, isn't it? It's as if they're in a bubble the rest of us are not in. And at the time, Sean Bailey was the chair of the London Assembly Police and Crime Committee. So he was allegedly in charge of ensuring that all the rules around COVID were enforced, and he's at a party where they're clearly not being enforced. And Ben Mallet, who was a senior aide who's also at the party, he was the Tories campaign director for the mayor campaign in 2021. Who's in the pictures, he was awarded an OBE, and by the way, Sean Bailey is now going to the House of Lords. So once again, in this country, there's complete double standards.
Yeah. And that's what so many people are angry about, because at the time we were all, you know, abiding by these rules, these lockdown rules. So many of you getting in touch today. Janet, another Janet, she said, of course I'm angry. I lost my brother and my sister-in-law and was not allowed to hug or sit close to anyone at either of their funerals. My 90-year-old, very confused mother was not able to be seen by a doctor. She ended up in hospital with delirium and we were not able to visit. Sue says, I'm angry, of course, but fed up about hearing about it all. The phrase people in glass houses comes to mind. How many of us can honestly say that they don't know of someone who broke the rules at some time during the pandemic? Can we please just get on with our lives now?
Yeah, well,
so those
MPs
seem
are
to be,
vote.
even though there are people who are angry and want something done, people saying they should be stripped of their OBEs or whatever, and other people saying, yes, I'm angry, but let's move on now, it's done.
Yeah, this afternoon MPs are going to vote whether to accept the findings of the Privileges Committee into Boris Johnson's behaviour during all this period too. And it'll be interesting to see how many Tory MPs immediately have business back home and don't turn up in Parliament to vote. And it's almost as if they still don't want to confront the truth, which is a load of people that we voted into public office behaved appallingly and didn't behave the way they all told us to behave night after night.
And I think you know, it was a party for Sean Bailey, who was the mayoral candidate for London at the time. Surely he's culpable because the people working there were his campaign.
So he wants to be the man to run London.
Yeah.
I mean, talk me through that. That's like me putting me in charge of air traffic control at Heathrow. It's plainly ludicrous.
What did you think, Linda, when you saw that
I
dancing
just
and
thought,
drinking?
I remember how depressing it was, and we were all stuck indoors, and I couldn't go and see my grandchildren like the rest of the country. It was just like the most depressing time ever. I got COVID. My husband wanted to move into an hotel and leave me there on my own. He was so scared of getting it. It was the scariest time, wasn't it? And I think now, looking back, what would my mum have made of it?
I know, and you think, Linda, we used to talk to our friends and have drinks and try and cheer ourselves up. We didn't do that terrible dancing down in the basement or something. We were talking to each other on our phones at 6 o'clock at night, trying to perk ourselves up.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking, oh, we'll just skirt around the rules, no one will notice. We just stuck
We have
to
had
them.
a Conservative Party spokesperson who said senior CCHQ staff became aware, excuse me, of an unauthorised social gathering by the Bailey campaign on the evening of the 14th of December 2020. Formal disciplinary action was taken against the 4 CCHQ staff who were seconded to the Bailey campaign. That's 4. What about Bailey? And what about Ben Mallet?
What about handing the honours back?
And what about handing the honours back? Exactly. Well, let us know what you think about that. I'm sure it's not the last we're going to be hearing about that.
Wait, have you run out of time? You don't want my political opinion?
Oh, do you want to do it?
My political opinion's the same as theirs. We've all just woken up because you got for a break.
I'll do that then. We will go to a break. She's always very involved in our political commentary on Nicole. We've got lots still to come, not politics. We've got a fashion masterclass with none other than Janet Street Porter. You do not want to miss that. She's showing us how to make swim hats made from supermarket bags.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Also, MasterChef's Greg Wallace is our guest today. He'll be here talking food and family life. There he is with his gorgeous boy, Sid. After the break, we're making 35,000 decisions every single day, don't you know? But should we be getting other people to make the choices for us to avoid decision fatigue? We'll be trying to decide that, right after this break.